All right, welcome back to another RRT podcast. Today we have a great guest here. It's Noah Barten with Dr Homes, and they're doing some really exciting things over there. I know a lot of people aren't always in the market to look for homes, but maybe that name will ring a bell the next time that you are. So Noah, thank you so much for coming and sharing a little bit about your story, what you do, and why you guys kick some butt. So yeah, man. How about if you give us a little bit of background on yourself and kind of maybe your role with Dr Horton Homes?
I was just going to say thanks for having me on here. You got a beautiful studio.
Thanks, man.
I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Absolutely.
And to start, Dr. Horton. Dr. Horton's a national company. We're in 35 states and over 50 markets. We are new to the Eastern Iowa area. We've been here for about a year and a half. And right now we've got 9 communities throughout the corridor area.
That's huge.
Yes.
I don't know any builders that have that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's some, but not like that.
Mm-hmm. It's been coming up quick too. So I've been here since the start. So just about a year and a half now, like I said,
Cool,
and it's just blown up since we've been here. So when I first started, we were just in a small community in North Liberty and in West Branch. And then since then, we've blown up into 2 communities in Hiawatha. We've got some in Tiffin now, as well as Coralville and other places.
It's incredible. It's like, okay, so me being like a broker that has been licensed, not as a broker, but been in the industry and a licensed agent since 2010. It's like I've seen a lot of things and learned a lot of things in the market. And I, think it's awesome that you guys have come into the market because it's really kind of shaken things up for other builders. It's made the values more competitive for everybody that are building, which, competition's usually a good thing, right? Because then it makes the competitors have to sharpen up on all of their angles. And so everybody wins that's a consumer or a potential client or home buyer or whatever at that case. But I guess just to say, it's like it's been pretty cool seeing something from outside of this market come right in and just rock and roll, man. I mean, it's crazy how fast you guys have grown. I truly am like astonished. And that's kind of one of the reasons I was like, yo, let's get you in here and find out, what the scoop is on this, because you're from everywhere from Hiawatha to, Tiffin area, or did you say West Liberty? I'm sorry.
So if we're going to start from the north, we've got 2 communities in Hiawatha. We've got a community in Palo.
Yeah.
We've got one on the southwest side, kind of by Stony Point.
Yep.
We've got a new community over in by the Kirkwood Community College. And then we've got Tiffin. We've got a large community over in Coralville, just south of Liberty High School. And we've got 2 over in West Branch.
Okay, West Branch. Man, that's a lot. So just for the record too, like, are you able, let's say somebody reaches out to you directly, are you able to represent those folks at any of those communities, or do you specialize in only one, or how does that work?
So how it works is that I have one community that is kind of like my basis, where I'm kind of the sales like manager there.
Sure.
And then, but I can sell in any other communities. So if I have a realtor friend that's looking for like, hey, Noah, I got somebody that's looking for the Hiawatha area. What do you have? And then I can send that information. I can show the house with them if they want, or that's how it kind of plays that way. But I think that really works as an advantage in this industry, just because I'm an expert in all these communities. I go to all of them. I've sold in all these communities. So like this house that they're looking at, I've most likely walked it before. I've seen it getting built. So I think it's nice to have someone that's on the listing side be able to, explain the process of how this house is built and when it's going to be done, and just the HOA and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And one of the things also that when I had met with you, man, it was like maybe almost a year ago, probably. Like It was winter. It was probably like, I don't know, maybe October or something. I was thinking, I don't remember when exactly, but it's been a while. But I remember going through one of the units that you had, and I thought it was really cool. I think one of the things that I really liked about it was you guys have really integrated a lot of smart tech technology into those homes. So it's like you're totally up to speed when you buy a Dr Horton home, and like you can just integrate right in with all of your favorite apps and like be efficient and control things via your phone or wherever you can access a cellular or a Wi-Fi signal. It's like, that's awesome. And so I don't know, do you want to talk about some of the smart tech that you guys are putting in the houses for people that haven't been through one?
Yeah, so that's a pretty neat feature. It's standard in all of our houses. It's about a 8-inch screen that's a touch screen, and you can control most of the basic functions of the house. So you can control like the lights, the garage doors, through this thermostat as well, and you can integrate security systems if you'd like. And then another big feature is that it's always got a ring style doorbell. So if you want to, don't want to answer the door right away, you got kids at home, you can talk to them, you can see them through that screen, which is, I think, is almost a necessity in today's culture.
Oh, hell yeah. Because you never know who's going to be at the door. It's like, like Home Alone. Leave it on the doorstep and get the hell out of here.
Right.
The Amazon guy. Sorry, man. I'm like pretty casual. So.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah. And you can unlock your door from your phone anywhere. You have Wi-Fi. So it's just like if you have someone coming over to your place or whatever, boom, it's right there. You don't have to give them your garage code or nothing like that.
Heck yeah. It's like, hey, let my dog out.
Exactly.
It's like good friends, right? Awesome, man. So how about if you give us a little bit of a just background on Dr. Horton, where it started, how it's kind of come to be where it is, and then how this market seemed appealing, maybe if to here, to get how they get here,
Yeah, so the Dr. Horton started in 1978 by Donald Horton, and he is still with us today, and he is very active in.
Bless your heart, Donald.
That's right. I think it's just like one of those true American stories that you hear about of entrepreneurship. Started off as a small builder and blew up from there.
Where did he start?
In Arlington, Texas, in 1978.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
And he just through leadership and his knowledge of the industry, he just blew up from there. And we've been in Iowa for about 6 or 7 years now. Started off in the Des Moines, Ankeny area, and they've been crushing it over there. They have over 50% market share.
Wow.
That
is incredible.
It is.
Wow.
And so what they did from there is that they opened up same division, but opened up Omaha and Eastern Iowa at the same time. So about a year and a half, like I said.
Okay.
And both have been doing well. I was talking to my sales manager this morning, and we actually closed on our 100th house here in Eastern Iowa just a couple weeks ago.
Nice, congrats, man.
Yeah, so it's just been
That's big.
But I think how Dr. Horton can achieve what we do is, so we have the best price per square foot for any new construction in the area, and we are.
That's a huge stat for anybody that doesn't understand.
Yes.
Key in on that.
Some real estate lingo right there.
Right.
And the way we do that is that I just think Dr. Horton's a well-oiled machine in the way that. So how it kind of works that they kind of give us the funding and the floor plans, and then we just roll with it. So because everything is built local by contractors around here and superintendents and sales
Awesome.
reps that are all here local. So it's just a good thing for the
That's beautiful, man, for
local
everybody.
economy. Exactly. Yeah. And so they have a lot of pull for all these materials, and they buy all this land at once. So what we do is that we pass that savings to the consumer. It's not like we are like make a bunch of profit off it. We want to build a new house at the best price we can to be able to get people in. Because like what we're seeing in a lot of these areas,
there's a lot of gaps in the market, so it's like cool that you guys have filled one of those gaps for the consumers, and that's a win for everybody again. So just to key in, sorry, not to interrupt you.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And like our price range are typically like in the low 200s all the way to about 400, depending on the level of the house and where it's located. But when you talk about these, custom and semi-custom builders, most of the time, it's a one-off lot, and you're building it for, at least $400,000.
Oh, at least, man. It's like, being a guy that used to be in the building part of things, it's like, man, materials got crazy expensive, and as an individual builder, unless you're getting like, huge deals on the land, which is not usually the case, the subdivider's usually taking care of that, and then, parceling it out and selling it to the builders that want to buy or that they're buddies with, essentially. But if you don't get enough lots, like you're not able to compete because you have just straight up retail cost on the lot as a builder, and then you're like, oh, I got to go get retail cost on the materials, and then you're like, I hope to God that somebody likes my house, but it's going to be very similar to all the other competing builders because you're all having to use the same covenants, so the roof pitch, a certain amount of stone on the front, things like that. You don't have any flexibility. So I know it's a hard market to be a builder unless you're really powering through or you have, flexibility in your own development. So that's another great thing that you guys are able to kind of come in and fill that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And just like building by local standards, that most houses are built just about the same all the way up to the drywall, and then it's all up to the builder to what they want to finish it as,
Right.
So you can buy all these like, fancy, lights and all that kind of thing. That's going to cost you a lot because that's the builder's going to throw their premium on it because they got to make a dollar at the end of the day too.
Oh yeah, man. It's like, and it's like a regular builder. It's like, it might take you, let's say, if you're just doing a few houses, it's probably going to take you about 180 days to finish that thing. So it's like, if that takes you a half of a year, what do you want your annual salary to be as a builder? And it's like, you have to make that money, otherwise you wasted your time. And so they have to mark it up. But you guys have this bulk product that allows you to like, blow past any kind of, waste. It's just passed directly through to the consumer on the savings, like you had mentioned. And so that's another great point for your guys' company. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of since we're very structured in how we build, is that another thing I like about it is that we're building them quickly, which means that, when you close on your house, your neighbor's house might not be done yet, right?
Right.
But when a typical builder, about 8 or 9 months is pretty standard for them to finish
Okay.
a house.
Yeah, yeah.
And for us, it's about 4 months since we're
That's
building the
incredible,
whole
man.
community, and we already have it planned out. Even
Yeah.
though it's not looks like a just a blank parcel of land, it's already planned out when it's going to start, when it's going to finish. So
Heck
it's
yeah.
nice to be able to kind of promise my clients that like, hey, this house you might only be there might be only construction here for another few weeks, and then it's done.
Yeah. I'm sure it's probably amazing. Like, you need to get like a GoPro and like time lapse somebody building one of those, because that's so fast.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible speed to and execution and efficiency. And I think that just like goes to speak about, how your company operates, obviously, and can continue to grow, because you've got that machine just going, and everybody gets a win out of that. And that's just awesome. That's total efficiency and like synergy within the community, as well as the builder who's got to make the profit to expand. So kudos, man. It's hard to get that right. And obviously, the guy that started this thing's really gotten it right, overall. So, okay, awesome, man. Do you want to share anything about who you are just personally, like kind of what compelled you to get into the real estate arena in general, and why maybe you selected, Dr. Horton as the go-to sort of, where you wanted to start your real estate journey? I mean, there's a lot of aspects to real estate, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So kind of to start off, how I got into it. So I'm a son of a general contractor, and so I was just raised in a construction household. So that's always interested me. Just being able to, walk through a job site and be able to see it like almost like a time lapse, like you're saying, of it being completed. That's always been intriguing to me. So I've worked for corridor construction for about 4.5 years. Anything from mainly as a carpenter, but all steps of the process of commercial and residential, especially remodels. So I did that during like the summers and winters while I was attending school.
Awesome, man.
I went to Kirkwood Community College to start off, so I'm very familiar with the Cedar Rapids area. Originally, I'm from West Liberty, and then from there, I went and got my bachelor's in business in the University of Iowa. But when I was doing that during the school year, I was always working in the restaurant industry. And for those of you that have done that, I think that's a great...
I have. That's right about your cousin.
Yes. And I just think it's a great way to be able to have strong communication skills with people.
Absolutely agree.
Be able to, multitask and work at a fast pace. And I think that those young people out there that want to have a good job, I think it's a great way to kind of hone those knowledge, because there's so much things that outside of school that you can learn.
I totally get that. And in fact, I've often thought that like, servers or bartenders that are actually like, really good at their craft, there's a lot of like, servers and bartenders that aren't great at it, right? Just like everywhere in the world, like some people are just better at it than others. But the ones that really are good at it, I've always thought that like they would kill it in real estate, just from me going through that channel myself for a while when I was younger. Because it's like, let's say you have a bunch of deals going at once. It's like, those are your tables, and it's like, you never know what's going to pop up, but you're always having to respond and make sure that like, you catch the ball essentially before it hits the ground to make that person feel like you just create a good experience for that person, and you're there to do that. And real estate and, going out to eat are very different in time, like in time and like how long it takes. But the, attention to detail and the care are both necessary for a good customer or client experience. So like, that's actually really interesting that I didn't know that about you. So like, I've already thought that. And I think that like, that kind of validates like my thoughts even more about it. It's like, that's cool, man. And to you, like, you know, you're a 25-year-old guy. I think, you know, you're a very sharp person, and I think that like you can tell. And so it's really cool. Like, you know, as you get older, you start seeing a lot of people come through different areas in life, and you see, you know, who's who, and you start to like understand more and more. But like, yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing because you're killing it, man. And the fact that you even came on this podcast today, for us to kind of like break some sort of different ground and some barriers within the industry, because, you know, for the record, Revolution Realty Team isn't, you know, representing Dr. Horton in any way. This is a purely educational and informational thing. So it's really cool that you're willing to come from that side and kind of like share about your product. And it makes sense, obviously. Like, we both get a win. We get to educate on this side of it, and create good content. You get, you know, potential content out there also. And dude, kudos, man. Way to go, and just expand and break the norms, because that's what the world needs more than anything today. You know?
Absolutely. And that's why I was excited to go on this podcast, because for one, I'm a fan of podcasts. But two, I think that it's very common just for realtors to post like, hey, I got this listing and all that. And that's great, yep. Right? But I think a big part of it is just kind of educating the community about what's available, and in different platforms, like you're saying, to be able to keep people interested and not just scroll past, you know, some normal real estate things.
Get something out of it, you know? It's like, because honestly, like, and you probably, now that you've been in the real estate industry a little while, like, I can't tell you how many people, like, I just, you know, I might go out and to a networking event, or, you know, you just are out having some drinks with some friends, and you just run into people and like, oh, what do you do? You know, it's like, oh, what do you do? And people, I swear, are always like, I've thought about doing real estate. And so, like, you know that there's a lot of people that are interested in the field, but they really don't know anything about it. They just think, oh, real estate, and then that's as far as it goes in their head. But then when we do stuff like this, we're able to show more about what real estate really is, and talk about it and shed more light on it in a way that's like fun for both of us. And this is like completely free. So like, why wouldn't we do this? You know what I mean? It's like, so that's really cool, man. Let's talk about like maybe some of the, you know, different floor plans that you guys offer. What do you feel like selling the hottest right now? What are you seeing people come in and gravitate towards, like, in just terms of the home style, and why do you think that is? Like, and there's no right or wrong answer. Just what's your gut instinct on that?
No, that's a great question, because that's something that, since we're new to the market, we had to kind of adjust what our floor plan and product are in this area. And even just working in the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City market, they're also a little bit different.
Okay, that's good to know.
What we've noticed in the Cedar Rapids area is that people tend to like ranch style homes more.
Definitely feel that.
So it's strange to see that, you know, we're building a lot more of these in Iowa City, and they're selling and getting a lot more interest. But then even though you're just 25, 30 minutes up the road, and, you know, it's just a different kind of market.
It really is. They're completely different markets. Mm-hmm. So that's cool to hear that, you know, validation there.
And then we're also kind of adjusting, you know, the size and kind of the elevation of the exterior and the interior to adjust to different price points too. So, like, for example, something that was kind of surprised me is that lately I've been selling a lot of houses that have unfinished basements, because people like to, you know, have the option to, you know, they're a small family, they don't need all that space, but they also, you know, might have a little construction background. Their uncle might do it, and they want to have a custom basement in the future. You know, it's like it's an opportunity to be able to, you know, kind of use their mind to be able to see what they're.
And then get some sweat equity there if they're savvy, right? It's like, because I mean, even though you guys are super competitive price wise, it's like, let's say a person buys it and a guy's like, hey, I'm going to learn how to do this, or I have that uncle or whatever. It's like, maybe it takes you 4 or 5 years to complete the project. But if you're able to like take your time and find good deals, and, you know, when things are on sale, you're like, hey, I know I'm going to need that in a year, I'm just going to buy it. It's like, if you were able to, you know, get that thing finished for cheap by not rushing it or having a contractor come in and do all of it, when you go to sell, you'll realize that gain, and you'll have a lot more square footage finished. So it's like, that's another really great play to, you know, keep your home value as your biggest asset and investment in your life, and really like exponentiate that, like, you know, compounded effect when you go to sell.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I kind of tell them too. And another thing that's great about new construction, especially when you're building out like a whole subdivision, is that if you get in there early, you know, that's when the prices are going to be the lowest. Just because the natural of you know, supply and demand, as the community matures and materials go up and all that kind of stuff, they're naturally the prices are going to increase. So I've seen it even, especially like in that Kirkwood Village community. Some of those people, even just 6 months later, they've already gained, $10,000, $12,000 in equity of their house just because, down the street, that house is already sold for that, so it's kind of nice to be able to tell my former clients that, like, hey, like, this is where, your home value is.
It's already almost like a stock.
Yeah.
It's like when it's going that fast anyways, or like a crypto or anything that's just like some market realizing like gains over 5 or 10%, which that's pretty unheard of historically in many ways, like for a common person to be able to, in real estate, in this market anyways, do that. So that's crazy. That's good.
Yeah.
That means that things are really shifting for everybody on a local and national level. And we also know that, like, the Fed and the inflation rates and everything and interest rates have really made it difficult to afford as much house as you could even a year and a half ago. So that's probably a good segue to say, don't you guys have some financing terms too? I know you did, and if you don't, that's cool.
We do, actually, and it's a good thing to touch on. So we do have our own mortgage company. It's called DHI Mortgage, and everyone's welcome to use their own lender, but there's a lot of advantage to DHI Mortgage. For one, on every deal that we include $2,500 toward your closing costs. So
awesome.
Typically that covers just about everything. So that's nice to be able to have that little bonus right there. But then we're always going to have a lower interest rate by about a half point, but sometimes it's a lot more. So
and a half point on 30 years is stupid savings.
Yes.
If you look at an amortization schedule, you'll see it. But just a key in there.
Just for an example, so just all the way up until last weekend, we had a 5.75 interest rate. So in the market right now is about 7.6, 8.75 to 7.
Yeah, it's teetering right in there.
If you're just simple numbers on like a $350,000 house, you're saving yourself actually about $200 per month in just lower interest rate, which is about $40,000-ish of buying power.
Unbelievable.
And then so I think that's just a huge benefit to new construction in general. And then with that, you do get a warranty. And most builders do have a warranty, but I think DR Horton's a little special in the way that we have a 10-year warranty, and that's kind of the structure of the home. So,
10 years is a long time.
Yes.
That means that you guys believe in what you're doing.
Correct. Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be like more for the structure of the home, and then for the first 2 years, it's going to be a lot more in depth. So, kind of like a bumper to bumper. So basically, if you anything that's wrong with your house that you didn't do personally, we're probably going to fix it for you. And kind of just over summarizing our warranty, there's so much into it, right?
Yeah, right.
But the thing that's nice is that we always have a superintendent on site in that community. So if you give him a call, he's going to show up to your house and fix any issues that you might see in the future.
I can't say that I've seen that at any other developments. So for people that are like, hey, I want to have a little extra protection, that makes you guys another solid choice. It's kind of starting to add up why, you guys are doing so well. It's kind of obvious. You have a lot of different packages. It's like, oh, I can get a half a point lower interest rate than if I go buy this other kind of house. That's huge. You said, roughly maybe a $200 month cash flow savings. What else could you do with $200 a month? What if you just put it in an investment account? Or what if you did anything with that you wanted? It's like, that's what life's about. It's like being able to leverage your hard-earned money. And so that's another amazing thing. And then on top of that, you get some closing cost assistance. So $2,500 is about right. That's good. I know some lenders will say, 3% on purchase price. And as a broker, that always pisses me off because I'm like, what are you doing with those closing costs? You're just taking that. And if we're repping the buyer, it's like, I get it. But, it's like that's also hurting the negotiating power of the deals that you're dealing with, right? Because it's always going to be a seller's worried about their net only. And so if your lender's forcing you to have, let's say, $3,000, it's like your seller gets an offer that's like $3,000 instead of $2,000 or $2,500. Even the psychological barrier of going from 2 to 3 in the offer and being more, it's like the seller doesn't like that as much. So that's great that they don't have to deal, with that, and you guys have a competitive closing cost thing, and you have a 10-year warranty. It's like those are all really solid reasons to at least take a look at what you guys are doing over there. And maybe those houses don't fit for everybody, but for the folks that they do, man, I think it's worth the look is what I'm like really hearing and feeling about that. So cool. And so you're saying like, you know, we have a lot of ranch floor plans that, you know, you sell in the Cedar Rapids market, but you're selling some different kinds of floor plans in the Tiffin area right now, like 2-story stuff.
So Tiffin's relatively new. Right now, what we've been seeing is that we sold 4 of our townhomes, and those have been getting a lot of interest lately. I think that just the other new construction.
Tiffin, there's a lot of townhome construction in Tiffin in general. Just for people that don't really understand, it's like I've got a friend that's been doing construction and does a lot of the carpentry for the townhomes going up there. And I think it's because the market is more expensive too, and so is the real estate. And so, you know, if you can get 2 units on one lot, that works for everybody. And a lot of the residents from the college and stuff aren't there forever, so they don't necessarily want to commit to the whole house. And, you know, that's another great option for anybody looking, you know, in that market.
Yeah, and what I've seen, especially people that are like, you know, mid-20s all the way to the mid-30s, is that, you know, they, even if they could afford a more expensive home, they don't want to right now, and they also don't want to live like directly in town. So I think these kind of communities on the kind of outskirts, like our Tiffin community and our Forever Green Heights community over in Coralville, because it gets you just like a few minutes away from all the stuff you need, but it's also quiet and, you know, more of a homey feel than it would be, you know.
More residential. It's like, yeah, you get into the Ped Mall, you know how it is. It's like, it's hard to get in and out of there in a car, you know, in any time frame that you can control anyways. So, and it's nice to just like, you know, I think that's kind of the weird thing about Iowa in general. It's like, you could be in the heart of a college and like a half an hour later be like, there's a cornfield, you know, or even 20 minutes later. And so it's kind of cool in a lot of ways. You can kind of get some of that feel of the country very easily, but not lose, you know, the amenities of being in the city or working in the city. And so that's another draw about Iowa in general for anybody, you know, thinking about moving this way. Very cool, man. So yeah, with those floor plans, you're seeing the townhomes. That's good. And also within that, you guys, isn't there a new exit on 380 that kind of gets off at the Tiffin area now?
Yes, that Forever Green exit, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Perfect. So for anybody who's not making that trek often, that's awesome for getting on and off and making it accessible. And they put a new school up fairly recently too, didn't they?
Yeah, so they had that Clear Creek and Manna, and with Ashton Kutcher being, you know, from there and all that, it's always kind of a cool little fact.
Yeah.
But a couple of cool things that are coming to Tiffin is that, you know, if you drive down 380 right now, you'll see that new golf simulator.
I know, I see it every time. I'm like, oh snap, here it comes.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It should be opening up this fall, which is gonna be really cool.
Heck
and I know
yeah.
that, you know, people in Iowa love to golf, you know, so.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm so glad.
And then there's also,
which is like a Top Golf for anybody who doesn't know.
Yes, Top Golf. Yes, that's what it is. And then there's also going to be an IMAX theater coming up too.
Cool.
It's going to have a bowling alley, a nice restaurant. So it's just going to have a lot more going on over there.
Lots of stuff to do.
Absolutely.
Which is like, you know, what makes a good community. It's like, hey, you got family, and you know, I don't. Do you have any kids?
No, not yet.
So you know, and you're 25. It's like it's probably, you know, I have a baby girl that I didn't have her until I was like 39, right? So it's like, it's kind of nice in a way. I'm like getting to experience like a different part of life as an older guy, but I love it, you know? And now as a dad, it's like those kinds of things are super important. I'm like, oh, well, what's around that I can do with her? How can I get her out? How can she learn and interact with things and just see the world in a different way? And so like, you know, it sounds like Tiffin's got a lot of really cool stuff that is coming up, like that Top Golf. Not that my daughter would be interested in that, but she might be. It's like that's a pretty big, larger than life, you know, thing. And maybe dads want to take their daughters there. They want to live in the development. You never know. You know, so very cool, man. What are you guys seeing as a trend in general? Just with, you know, the price point that people are kind of wanting to be in, like where's the meat of what you guys sell, like price point wise, like average or median, whatever you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So most of our houses that we have for sale are going to be in the mid 300s, and that's where we're at.
Perfect.
So if you're looking for like a townhome or a zero lot or duplex kind of style house, they're going to be about 250 to 300 for the most part.
That's solid, man. In today's market, it's hard to find anything new at that price, even in this Cedar Rapids market. That's really difficult. So kudos, you guys are finding that niche.
Yeah, and you probably know this better than I do, but last time I checked, like the average sale price in Cedar Rapids is gonna be around 250.
Yeah.
And then Iowa City is more like 350. So it's kind of
Yep.
just a different level. So in the Iowa City market, you know, we're right there, and then in the Cedar Rapids market, we're a little bit above, but not. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. You know.
No, it's just like the product of the market conditions. And, you know, the thing that's a lot different, obviously, in Iowa City is you've got a lot of people coming for the university, which the supply and demand is a lot different, but also it's bringing in a lot of different out-of-market money than you might see in Cedar Rapids, because many of the employers are just like, you know, right here, and, you know, it goes right, the money gets right back into the economy, so its own local situation makes up that supply and demand where, you know, the university brings tons of different people in and out of that market all the time, which they're bringing their money with them, obviously, and they need a place to live. So that's why that market, you know, is a little bit different. And historically, ever since I've been in the business, Iowa City has always been, I don't know if they still are, I know West Des Moines growing a ton, but they've always been the highest median price point in the state for buying real estate, which, you know, totally makes sense. It's a college town. So another little fun fact there. And you might be able to correct me if it's not that way still, but that's what it's always kind of been from my experience of looking at it over the years. So that's cool, man. What else do you love about the company that you work for? Why do you love working there? Like, what is it that really gets you to like feel like at the end of the day you're in the right place for yourself? So, and I know it's putting you on the spot.
No,
so
it's a good question.
You could tell me to, you know, knock it off if you want.
One thing I love is that when I'm walking somebody through a house that's not completed yet, and they, you know, want to move forward with it, and I think that it's great to be a part of the, you know, the person in between, like, hey, like, this is what your house is going into. Like, hey, you're getting, you know, your walls are getting drywalled. Hey, your cabinets got installed today. I'm taking pictures and sending it to them, and they're getting excited. And it's just like, exciting. You're walking them through this house, you know, through every stage, and I'm explaining it to them in a way that, you know, it's just getting them excited about their brand new house, you know. So
whether it's Dr. Horton or like just being an agent in general, that's kind of a similar thing, right? I think the best part about it is, from my experience being just an agent or a broker for many years, it's like you guys have so much more control over that process. And I know that most people know, like, when we go to buy or sell a home, it's like that's a stressful process because, like, you know, as human beings, we're always like in our routines and patterns. We love that. But then once that gets disrupted, it's like, oh my God, you know, are we going to make it? And even though it's like, yeah, of course we are. Like, there's those moments where it gets like super sketchy. And so, like, you know, you have control. So, like, going back to what you just said about, you know, you're helping them along and ushering them in that process and giving them that peace of mind. Like, hey, here's your cabinets. You're keeping them with the objective with as few interruptions in that as possible. And so it is exciting. It's like, because you're able to see, you know, from your perspective, helping them out and be really attention detail oriented and helping them go through. But they're going to live there, man. It's like they're in their head about, oh, you know, this is our next chapter in our life's journey. And, you know, so being a part of that and having a good experience that's everything in life, man. That's how, like, I can't tell you how many, like, incredible friends that I've made just because I'm in real estate, that they just clients that turn into friends because, like, you go through the process and then, you know, you find a lot of people that are like really cool, and it's a pretty sweet gig if you're, you know, a people person. I'm probably less of a people person now than I used to be. I'm a selective people person now, and I think that's just like getting a little older too, but that's awesome, man. Like, you're able to like really help people get their goals accomplished in a very structured and consistent way.
Yeah,
which
you
is
just hit the nail on the head. Just, you know, you get to know these people so well over the few months, you know, and like you're saying, it can be a very stressful time for people because they got to worry about their loan, they got to worry about getting moving trucks and moving to a new community, you know, and you're the one that's there to kind of make them feel comforted and reassured with their decision. You know? And
they're still like, hey, I got to go to work during all this most of the time. So it's like they're trying to, which probably brings some sense of normality during the process, but it can be stressful. So I think that's awesome that that's like your take on the situation, because that means that you're probably really good at what you do, you know, and you'll just continue to get better if you keep that in mind. Anything else that you can think of that you want to shoot through? I know we could probably talk about this stuff forever. And just for anybody that is keying in on this, I'm going to go out to the development and take some pictures and make a blog and everything. And so we can get a little bit more visual, since this is very, it's audio and a little bit of video of us. But yeah, we'll get some more illustrations. And Noah's been awesome and supplied me with some stuff before, but I want to get an updated list and just get my own take on it, take some photographs and put them on there. But Noah, like anything that you can think of, like shout out to anything you want, man. Like, dude, it's all you, man.
So if you wouldn't mind, I got a couple questions for you. So
absolutely.
Why did you get into real estate? Like, how did that happen?
Oh man, I worked at AT&T for a long time, and I like technology. It's like my age. I saw the iPhone released. It was the first time that I saw people line up for a device. And anyways, I was in technology, and I ended up going and working at Sprint, and I just had this feeling for a while, like, God, I'm redlining here. I need to find the next move. And I didn't, necessarily really know what that was at the time. But one of my good friends from high school at the time, his mom had came in as a customer, and she's like, hey, our company is doing this apprenticeship award. And it was Skogman Realty at the time. And kudos to Skogman. I think Skogman's a great company. I'm just an entrepreneurial mind, so it's like no shame on their game. They're awesome. But she encouraged me to go and learn a little bit about it and interview for the process. And I actually won the damn thing. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I got my licensing paid for, and they had put me on a salary for the first year, which is one of the biggest problems in real estate because it is 100% commission typically. So it's like you want to do it, but then that's scary because going from, a regular paying job to this I don't know moment is terrifying for most people, and rightfully so. But I ended up going that direction and got in, and I made a lot of friends, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't really know much about real estate, but I am really good at, I guess my strength that I'm realizing as an older guy is like, I'm just really good at connecting with people, connecting other people together, and just kind of seeing life in a social way pretty well. And so it just came really natural to me being in, management already and AT&T and having that corporate structure and all of those trainings and all of that stuff. It translated to real estate pretty well, except for I felt like real estate was so far behind as an industry when I got in 2010 even. It's like I remember you could only have like 8 photos on the MLS. I mean, we're talking about insanity, to today's world and standards. It's like, how do you make a decision on 8 photos? Like, are you kidding me? And they're always like crappy as hell. Like somebody just used their old crappy camera. Like I kind of came in at a weird turn where the median age of the agent was like 55 or 60. And so here I am, just under 30, and I'm like coming out of a technology company. I'm like, oh my God, this place is like a dinosaur. Like not Skogman necessarily, but the industry of real estate, and just it's the MLS's problem that you can only do 8 photos or whatever. And so that was like kind of cool for me because I knew that I didn't know what needed to be, changed in a way, but I knew that it was like really lagging in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of things that, in real estate and in the personal community networking game that in a corporate environment, you don't actually realize there's value there. So that was a huge moment of like, hey, I like this. This gives me a great excuse to basically what we're doing right now. We get to just connect, right? Like, and you start going out and connecting and networking and just do, if you're good at that and you enjoy it, like it kind of is a pretty easy gig then, because if you really care and you become sharp at your craft, kind of like, you don't have to be a licensed agent for your company, but you took it upon yourself to go out and get your license. And so it's that same kind of mentality. It's like, if you make it your own and you want to go figure it out, like, it's able to happen. And, so that's how I kind of got in, and then I've just been learning over the years, and I guess I just enjoy like coaching and mentoring. It's like having my own company. One of the best parts about it has been, helping other agents like get to their goals and trying to help them out. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of my story. And then I just have gotten more interested in a lot of the marketing and just the aspects of being an entrepreneur in general. There's a lot to it, and it's just kind of been the natural progression for me in my life. So I don't know. I got plenty of things I'm going to keep going with. I think like I love real estate. My goal is actually to make this company at some point a cooperative, owned by all of the agents, and we'll just see how things go, man. So we'll see what that does.
That's great. I was my next question was going to see like where do you see this, going, and
Yeah.
love how you see that it's going to be a cooperative, and kind of just like what's interesting about you in general is I think you have a unique, twist on things that's in a good way. Like you're saying, like
I appreciate it.
Interested in technology and how that can, revolutionize the industry.
Yeah.
Just you're taking real estate is interesting. I like it.
That's cool, man. I think it's like there's a lot of things that are really common sense in life that, like being a younger guy, it's like when I was your age, it's like you might know that things just don't seem like they're as good as they could be in different ways, the way that you start looking at the world as you go through the world in a more authentic way, because, like you're in school, it's like you're doing all that stuff. You just don't have the time to be out there, thinking about it. But then when you start working for yourself or getting a job that's like a career, you start, thinking about, okay, how do I maximize this? And then you start really digging in to see how things work, because that's the nature of anybody who's, looking to take control of their own life. And you start seeing there's just a lot of problems everywhere. And most of the problems are because of bureaucracy. And that's, I think, where, the time that we're living in right now, let's say in like even 30 years from now, people are going to look back and be like, oh my God, like you guys like went through a squeeze. Because, I mean, think about it. It's like the internet wasn't really a thing that long ago, so like all of a sudden in our Earth's history, we see this amount of information that is just like now overwhelming. And like we as people are like, oh my God, we weren't even evolutionarily like developed to handle 40 million notifications and everybody wanting our attention. And so like we have to take our own like mental space back in some ways. And that's where I think you got to know who you are, and you got to like be interested in learning about that. And as you do it, like you just naturally, are looking, I think as humans, we want to connect. And if you look at all of nature, it's like, it doesn't waste. Everything works together in the way that it's supposed to. And so you start seeing business and different things very similar to that, whether you're trying to or not. You're just like, hey, like even in a regular like business deal, that's going to be a long continued thing. It can't really be like I was talking to you earlier about sustainable if both people aren't able to get a 50-50 win. If one person's getting all the good and, the teeter-totter is like, sagging on one side, it's only going to be a matter of time before that other person gets wise enough to be like, this just isn't, I'm not getting what I'm putting into this. And so, you just start to see those situations and try and like find your own way to balance those things in a way that makes everybody get a win. Because what you're trying to do as a business owner is provide the best solution. You want to maximize your time and get paid. You want the customer to have the best experience that they can possibly have, because that means that you did your job well at the same time as you build your referral network in this business. And you don't have to feel shame about, wanting that referral network. And hey, can you just, if you do a good job, naturally people are like pumped to be able to share their experience. Like say, a bunch of friends are out, doing something, and the topic comes up about buying a house or whatever. It's like, if that person that, you worked with had a great experience, they're going to be like, oh my God, like, hey, I want to hook you up with blah, blah, blah. Because then it's like, they feel like they're helping their friend too, even beyond the transaction. So that's why it's so important to do your best to make sure that you understand people and to really try and truly care, which can be tough too. And you got your own limits of like, hey, if I'm super busy and overwhelmed, like, it's like the waiter thing. It's like if you have too many tables, then you can't give the best service, right? So you got to like find your way to be efficient and fix those things as you go through the process. And I think at the end of the day, like I have kind of a big picture mind, and I try to engineer backwards to fix the things that I can on the small level. But it gets frustrating because sometimes, things like legal laws that were created years and years ago that don't actually necessarily suit today's world are still, locking us into this old pattern. And I'm not thinking of anything specifically, but it's just, if we're looking at our lives and the time that we're going through, that's the struggle. It's like all of a sudden information became available. A portal called an iPhone to the world's knowledge database from every country in the world is like in your hand now. And so you have to be responsible to, what do I do with that knowledge? Or do I just let it or do I become a personal product, for the marketers out there, which, hey man, that's cool too. Like you're going to get used or you're going to use it. And so we're trying to, I think, figure out responsibility right now. And I think even a lot, not trying to get too political about it, but I think, we've watched a lot of our time change with even with crypto. Like a lot of people were marketing all over YouTube and Facebook, and there's just crazy scams and everything going on. And it was just like clickbait stuff. Or even how, Donald Trump, for instance, if you watch the Netflix documentary, I think it was there was a firm called Cambridge Analytica. And basically he was running all kinds of retargeting ads that were not necessarily good or bad, but he was, kudos to him for, making the system work for him. And just using these algorithms and stuff. So we're just seeing this crazy time that nobody really has it figured out yet. We're all looking and saying, if we don't take personal responsibility for our own lives, do you think somebody else is going to really care? So it's that's where I think that's if you see that, that's what your personal mission has to kind of be, is to take responsibility. I didn't used to care as much, but as you get a little wiser and older, and then you have a kid, you're like, hey man, she's gonna be here tomorrow. I'm gonna fight for forging a path that's a little bit cleaner than maybe I would have without that, because now I have something at stake that is gonna be here. The whole point of having a kid is to have them be better than you, to be the next model of you, and so you can give them the wings to fly and show them how to carve a path. So anyways, I know I just went down a super rabbit hole there, but
I like it.
That's the thing.
I just think it's interesting how you kind of touched on just how technology has changed, not just this industry, but our lives in general. I think about this all the time because it's I'm not old enough to be oh, I remember when the internet first came out, but I do remember when, everyone had an iPhone in their pocket, and how that's changed everything, even
it's
our
wild.
jobs, you're saying, you can have a million things going on in the pocket of your phone, when before you had to meet someone face to face. Yeah. Just in real estate, I would be interested to, be able to shadow someone, 40 years ago that was a realtor, because I'm sure their job was 100% different than ours is.
Oh, yeah, way different.
And then even when I because my family is not just my father, but my whole family is a bunch of builders, right? And I would just and they're in their 60s, right? And I'm sometimes I'll touch on the fact of how would you do construction work back then? It's not you can call a contractor in, how do you you drive to their office, and oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
It's just slower.
Everything is slower. Yeah, the tools they use, everything is just changing, and it'd be really curious to see when we're old men, to see how much it's changed,
Right. Well, I think there's a rubber band. It's we're all excited that we get all these new technologies and all this new information, and there's a new phone coming out every year and a new upgrade. Your computer, your technology is doubling. It's now there's VR and all these different things, but it's it's kind of a good problem. And AI, obviously, it's AI's there because we're not designed or equipped to handle this level of information and make sense of it in any way. It's too much calculation. The human evolutionary process just isn't that. So now AI is supposed to kind of, in my opinion, take our intellectual capabilities that we have developed and make those better, so we don't have to spend all of our actual energy in that space. So then we can say, okay, calculations. A guy doesn't have to spend his whole life doing calculations to learn one thing. It's now all this data can get mapped out, calculated, and then we can make decisions with that data to do the right things or to be. It's just the next step in my. It's there was a time before a calculator kind of thing, right? And so now it's we have to say, all right, cool, maybe I don't have to look at all these alerts all the time. Maybe I don't have to be as involved. Now AI can do a lot of these things, and I can actually choose to, interface with the information at any time I want, or it's, neurologically very, very beneficial for the human brain to take time away from that stuff. It's just like a stream or like a pond. It's like if you throw a big rock in there, which is, let's say that's all the information. It's like there's a bunch of ripples everywhere. It's like it takes a minute before that, placid water can be seen again, and it's like smooth and relaxed and centered. And so we have to I know personally I have to do that same thing. Like I'm definitely a meditator and find my own Zen stuff. I have to every day. Otherwise I know that this information will just suck me out the window. And so it's like, because it's overwhelming. There's too much and you can't calculate all of it. So everybody's just got to find their own balance and realize like, hey, nobody's got it figured out. Like, and that's why shit's kind of stressful, because nobody really knows, and we're trying to say we know, but you can see our like political system also is like, in my opinion, not done a great job. And not to like blame anybody. It's not somebody else's fault. It's like, it's just a more antiquated system, in my opinion, about.
It's a very complex issue of what do you even do?
Yeah, and technology develops a lot faster than bureaucracy and political things and people in general, and biology maybe in some ways. So it's like, of course there's going to be a lopsided there. It's like, it's not about like being, oh, it's your fault. It's like, hey, how do we get this figured out? Because if we're actually like the United States, maybe we should unite a little bit, across parties and realize, hey, that guy doesn't have it all figured out. He's just mad because it isn't figured out, and you're mad because it isn't. And like, maybe there's some benefit there. And I think, history always repeats itself, and we can tell the tale of, hey, well, things have to get tough, just like any relationship, before you realize, hey, something's got to get fixed. And I think that's kind of where we're at, and we're hopefully fixing things and using it to the best of our abilities, as the future will show. So that's a whole different topic, but ultimately, it's like, I think it's really interesting, and I think like a lot of the technology is cool, how going back to the homes part of it, you guys are interfacing this stuff in there. And so now you can be a lot more efficient with how you want to live your life in different ways too, because now you can automate a lot of things, which saves you money, makes you more safe. And so maybe you don't have to work as hard in different ways, and you can enjoy your life more than having to like think about all that stuff all the time. So yeah. Any other thoughts that you might have on anything in real estate in general? And you said a couple questions for me. I kind of like drew that one out there, but
since you've been in the real estate in this area for over 10 years now, what do you see the market? Do you see a shift in the Cedar Rapids market? Do you see a high demand to be here? What's your take on that?
Yeah, the Cedar Rapids market has definitely been kind of a strange market in general, right? It's like we had a flood in this market, and then, that really changed things a ton, because it like destroyed the whole downtown area here. And it was a struggle. It made our community come together. It's like I was out doing sandbags. I met a lot of good friends out there just in the trenches. It's like, it kind of feels like you're at war in a way, because like stuff's broken, so you all got to like get together to fix it. And so that with like, having out of state insurance money injected into our area, also grants and things like that have gone to developing this neighborhood that we're in right now, this Nubo area. This building that we're in was flooded. And actually on the wall over there, I'll show you on the way out, you can see how far the water line had come up in here. But then also the derecho more recently had really impacted this city huge. And so like all of a sudden everybody in the town's got a new roof almost. And so the property values have really the houses are way nicer than they used to be as a whole, which is great. And I think that like, the overall sentiment, because of these things changing and making things nice, has really helped make Cedar Rapids more attractive to, maybe companies that want to consider moving here, and having good amenities outside of those companies to attract their own employment. So the market's been really strong here. And in fact, I remember in about 2017-ish, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, cool. Every market cycle has its thing. It's like we had the crash of 2008, right? So all of a sudden, all the values of real estate fell out, along with every other part of the financial system. And then it was slowly, me getting in 2010, it was a straight buyer's market all day. Like, it was a weird thing. So now I've seen a whole market cycle personally, not just looked at it on a chart, and have felt that difference. And then I just saw it keep ramping up. And I remember like 2017, I'm like, oh man, I wonder how long it'll be before another cycle, happens. And it kept getting stronger and stronger. And then we had COVID, which really, I don't think it was sustainable in some ways anyways. And I knew it was going to have a correction of some kind, but COVID made that correction, take place way differently than I thought because of two things. The money getting injected, from stimulus and everything, and which we had to do. It's like people want to complain about that, but like, guess what? What if like people aren't getting paid and all of a sudden everything that stops working? There's riots, and so sometimes you got to like go out on a limb.
It's needed
as a leader and be like, hey. This is what we can do today. We'll figure it out tomorrow. But we know that if we let everything break right now, there might not be really a tomorrow to figure shit out. So I don't have any problem with how it went down. But then I think also on top of that, though, a lot of people started to work remotely, right? So a different psychological change started to take place in how people see their own lives. And then we also, I think, have some PTSD because you're like, I got to like go out with a mask on. Like I used to be able to give high fives out. And then now for like 2 years, I couldn't do that. So now I'm like in this weird, mental program about like being okay with that again. And then a lot of the vaccine stuff, if you're watching the news, there's like both sides say, hey, they're great. And then there's, oh no, it's not great. And it's a flaw. It's not a flaw. So it's just confusing as hell. But one thing that also happened within that is people were at home, right? So they started to value the time at their homes more. And so real estate still continued to rise in values, which is, weird, all things considered for most market times historically, because people are like, hey, I'm going to be stuck here. I might as well like make my house better. So then you started seeing people do more home improvement loans and all that stuff. So like houses are getting, better and better. And then people are like, I don't really want to sell them now. And so I know that like the interest rate hikes, the people that are really savvy, I know me, it's like I've got a really good rate. It's like not even the best rate, but it's 3.5%. And I would take 3.5% over 6.5 or 7 every day. So maybe it makes me think twice because I know that at the moment that I sell my house, I'm going to make that money on the front end of, the equity position rising, but then I'm going to go have to put that, money down and I'm going to lose traction with a different kind of interest rate. So if I don't have to move, I might, not be moving. You know what I mean? So then it's just people that are savvy. You're like, hey, I might have a 2.5% interest rate. Like I might not ever see those rates again. And if I'm on a 30-year fixed mortgage, it's going to make me really think about how I should probably hold on to my house or, and then there's a lot of people that still have to move because they're just growing, right? Like as a family or they're moving for work. So there's still things happening there, but I know that inflation has really affected buying power also, which is the whole point of why we rise the interest rates to get, a handle on cash to bring it back in. So there's not so much printed money essentially out there and that the dollar bill will hold stronger. It isn't just worthless, So I think overall the Cedar Rapids market's very healthy. I think that I've seen in the last, I don't know, probably 60 days, in certain price ranges that are a little bit higher, I've seen those really slow. There's still good demand in the price points that are, probably like, median 200 and down. It's a median for a reason. There's still good demand. But people are being more selective. So, the higher end inventory that people have those good rates locked in on, they're kind of staying tight, So we'll see once the interest rates come back down, if, it's like nobody can really tell. If they come back down a little bit, either one or two things will happen. It's like the interest rates will come back down and people might start, some of those houses that aren't getting listed might become, listed, which will change the market conditions a bit. And I forgot the second point I was going to make there. But either way, like it will change things dramatically. And so we'll just kind of see what happens in the future. And nobody can really tell. That's why we got economists. They're supposed to know all that crap,
right.
Even though they don't. They're good guessers and they're good mathematicians, but like nobody can really tell, especially with the global economy that we have kind of going right now as a planet, essentially.
So I do have another question for you.
Yeah.
Since we do build and so we're always on the search for, land and where's the best places to build. In this area, where do you think you would like to see Dr. Horton build?
Well, I know historically, okay, first off, probably a good question for me to ask would be, do you feel like you see a lot of families or people that are going to have families buying your houses, or do you feel like it's more single people, or is it a mix of all of it? I just know that like schools are very important to parents, and in my experience, houses and developments that are in college community or maybe the Linn-Mar district tend to do really well. Because those schools are rated really highly and they have great programs across the board for sports and academics, things. And so it's all the way around. There's like great offerings, and we all want our kids to be able to have access to that. So I would say like if you can get into those two districts, it doesn't really matter where you build. The demand will show up. And you can look at the charts. It's like, yeah, you got more tax dollars and stuff, but that's because you're paying for a pretty incredible education system close by, and so you got to pay for it.
I totally agree. So the other realtors I've been talking to, it's been a big question of mine when I network. Is like, where these people like really looking, and you just hit it again. So it's either College Community School District or Linn-Mar.
Yeah, man.
And that's why that one of our communities just been selling like crazy, because people want to live there.
Absolutely.
And we are on the search for some land over in Marion right now.
Good.
I think that would be a huge market for us to kind of grow into.
Absolutely, man. I think, to piggyback even a little further, and this is where I don't know all about your guys' business model and how it would really work, but like I would say that like the Springville area, going out east on 151 out there, past Marion, that would be a good area to consider. And also, I think Mount Vernon's kind of an area that is on the rise. It's already great. It's had a college, Cornell College, there for a long time. I feel like the trend that I'm seeing in general is, and the reason this neighborhood here has been so successful, New Bohemia, people are wanting to, be more creative and be around things that are more pedestrian friendly and maybe not so fast paced all the time. Kind of probably going back to our technology problem. It's like people are like, hey man, I just want to like take a breath of fresh air and be like, hey, I can look out and not feel like there's no culture around me. It's just marketing and ads and all of this. I have to do this and that, and it's like
I can go walk the dog and not be reminded of like being in the rat race of some sorts.
Damn right, and so that's exactly it. So I think what I've seen, and just like this is more of like an unconscious kind of intuitive feeling. It's just people are starting to feel that like, hey, there's some value to smaller communities, and I think that's also in this area especially true because a lot of the developments 10 years ago hadn't pushed out to the place that they are today. So now those other areas start looking attractive, and for multiple reasons. And so the perfect storm brings good things like that, and you just start seeing, oh, maybe that's a good progression to kind of consider. And they're both like, on the east side of 380. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not a super fan of the time it takes to get from Marion to 380. I don't think anybody is, but I know Tower Terrace is like gonna that road that they're bringing through will make that easier. Mount Vernon's actually pretty nice though, because you can get onto Highway 1 or whatever it is out there. You can get to Iowa City or whatever also, or Highway 13 can bring you into Cedar Rapids area, go north or south from 380 there. But yeah, those communities I think they're good. I think what I realize is, the things that are important to the older generations in housing and, just in life, like, status or whatever, it's like those things are starting to change with the younger generation. So maybe like in 10 years, the people that are, when you're 35, let's say, you're going to be driving a lot more of the market with your buying power, and a lot of people your age will. So we'll see what happens with what kind of decisions you want. How do you want to support, your life? And so we'll see what kind of housing starts to become available. I know some other cool stuff on a side topic. It's like, I know that there's like 3D printing houses starting to take place in in the United States a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if you guys might get in on some of that as it becomes more accessible. And if I was like super baller, it's like I've already priced it out. It was like, I think it was like $200,000 for a basic 3D printing machine. But with Iowa being such a good agro state, man, like we could totally turn a lot of the things that we could grow into materials, composites. So I think we're just going to see a lot of things change in the next 10 years. We'll see. AI should help us with that if we use it right.
If we use it right, yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think the Mount Vernon and Springville areas people like that, man. Yeah. So how about anything else, man? You got my attention. So, yeah. And if you don't, that's cool.
What else do you have for me?
I just want to say thanks for you coming on and, being a good sport about, I didn't give you a script or anything. And that's what I like to do is just kind of come out here and organically flow, because I think that's where the best stuff a lot of times happens. And just thanks for coming on and being willing to be open and communicate what you guys are doing over there, man. So thank you.
Yeah, and to all the listeners out there, if you have any questions about living in the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids market, Rob's been he's a professional in this area, and or contact myself as well.
Absolutely, and we'll put Noah's number out there too for everybody, because I didn't have it on the screen here, but.
And the corridor area is really a special place to live. For those people out of state listening to this, is that it's not just all cornfields over here. They're very well meshed, and it's a big community, even though they're in separate towns. It's very unique, even to the Des Moines market. So
definitely, man.
Yeah,
I love Iowa City area, Coralville area. It's I think the thing that I like about that is, as a Cedar Rapids guy, is it's so close, and there's a lot of different culture that comes through, and lots of restaurants that are different, and the energy itself is different because people aren't necessarily all staying there for their whole life. They're in and out, so there's something that you can't really measure that you can feel that's just different about the area, and it's not that far away from here, so it's kind of a unique pocket in the area. So I think that's great, man. Yeah, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
All right. Thanks for anybody that tuned in. Have a great day.